Today's guest is Greg Marlow, a country gospel artist whose powerful testimony of healing, deliverance, and redemption is woven into every lyric he sings. From battling cancer and addiction to topping the Christian country charts, Greg's story is a living example of God's grace and the beauty of second chances. Greg, thank you so much for joining me today. It is such an honor to have you on.
Thank you, Christy, for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we have been trying to get this scheduled for probably over a year now. And it just never did work out. You know, I was with Severe TV, and then I could see things that guests couldn't see in the background. And I could see that we were finishing up there. And so I kept putting people off, and I was like, well, I will. And then I felt bad because I didn't want you guys to think, well, she just doesn't want me on. But it was just a matter of leaving one company and starting my own and, getting it all worked out like that. But, I have learned that if we just leave things up to God, his timing is always so perfect.
Never fails, ever. Yeah, and I knew this was going to happen. It's just a timing issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just the timing. So there's so much I want to talk to you about today. Man, you have had quite a life and quite a testimony. It is beautiful and sad, and it's just all the things, and that's how God is. He gives you beauty for ashes. He takes something so horrific and just makes it such a beautiful story. So I just want to kind of give the highlights, and then I want you to take over. So you were diagnosed with sarcoma. That's a type of cancer in 2011, and you were given 6 months to live. Now, I can't imagine being told I have 6 months to live. I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer in February of 2020, and the doctor said if we hadn't discovered it when we did, you wouldn't be here by Christmas. So I kind of was like, wow, but I cannot imagine what it's like to hear, first of all, it's such a jolt to hear that you have cancer, and then to be told you only have 6 months to live. How did you, try to tell the viewers how that felt, and what do you do with that? You've got 6 months to live. What do you do with that?
That is such a good question. The best way that I have figured out to describe that is it felt like life was going at 100 miles an hour, right along with everybody else. And then just from a simple doctor visit, all of a sudden it was like my life hit a glass wall and everything stopped. Yeah. But I could see everything else going, everything but me. And it was numbing at times. It felt like is this really me this is happening to? I've been healthy as I could be, my whole life. And it just felt like life just hit a solid wall, and I could see everybody else just going right on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was real numbing at times.
Yeah. What do you do? Like, I think, well, we all know we're going to die. Like, that's a part of life.
Yeah.
We know we're going to die, but we don't ever sit down and go, gosh, what if I only had 6 months to live? And you were actually told that. So what was the first thing that you thought, I've got to do this? I know they say get your affairs in order. Like when my husband got sick, the doctor said, make sure he has his affairs in order. And then he lived for a couple of years after that. But still, it's like, I don't know. What do you do? What's the first thing that you think about doing? Hugging your family?
My family was the very first thing I thought of. And my son was 12 years old when I got diagnosed. And I had just spent so much time working and so much time traveling and playing music, and then working a day job through the week, 50 hours a week, and doing that. And all of a sudden, there was almost a sense of guilt that hit me. Like, wow, I've not got a whole lot more time left. How am I going to, what am I going to do? And how am I going to cram this in? And 5 million things enter your mind. Guilt's one of them. Fear was probably the last thing that hit. There was the whole, and I think that comes from knowing in my heart where my relationship with Christ was, because I was never scared. Wow. And I would sit and think, Greg, you should be scared right now. but there was almost like a peace. And I don't know if I knew then that God was going to heal me,
Mm-hmm.
or I just knew that I was that ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been a combination of both.
Yeah. I can relate to that because like when I was sick, I mean, I had 6 months of chemo, I had a mastectomy, I had 31 rounds of radiation. But the whole time I was sick, and I knew I was sick. I mean, I knew I had cancer, but I never not one time thought I'm gonna die. And it just never hit me like that. Looking back at the pictures now, I go, man, I was really sick. But at the time I just thought, well, I got cancer, I'll be all right. It just, I mean, I don't know, but I also know that it brought me closer to God. Did that did it affect your faith, or did it cause you to draw closer to God, or were you already just so close to him that you were just like, I trust you?
No, it definitely brought me closer. I've always been in my life. I've always been a fixer. I was that guy that just call Greg, he'll fix it with my family, with everything. And all of a sudden, I finally ran into something that Greg couldn't fix.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any choice but to totally and completely turn my life and everything and put it in God's hands. And it made me realize that, all the times that I had been praying, Lord, help me figure this out. And Lord, while you're figuring that out, I'm going to go ahead and take care of it. And I'd been that guy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I didn't have a plan B. There was no plan B. The only plan there was, the only A plan there was him.
Yeah.
So I had to really and truly know that I had to rely on my faith in God. And it definitely made it stronger. It became more real.
I completely relate to that. I hate to keep saying I relate to that, but I do, because I have always been super independent, like really independent. Like I take care of everybody else. I make sure I'm on, like if somebody needs something, I take care of it. And
Mm-hmm.
just I'm so self-reliant and self-sufficient. But that having cancer like that taught me that I'm not in control. I'm not in control of anything. I'm not
Yeah.
self-reliant. I'm not self-sufficient. I was completely and totally dependent on God, and that's how
Yeah.
it was. So yeah, I totally get that. So, did you find yourself praying more, or what role did prayer play in your cancer journey? I mean, you got 6 months. When you got to like month number 5, were you like, okay, God, I really got to talk to you more? What role did that play?
It was crazy. When I first had the surgery that they done, and they even told me with this was with the surgery, 6 months tops.
Mhm.
And the surgery was really experimental. And I remember telling Angie, my wife, that I'm going to go ahead and do this because if it will help somebody else down the road, at least maybe something good can come out of this mess. So I'd gotten really weak and really sick, and I laid for 23 days without being allowed to move a muscle. And you got a lot of time to pray when you're laid up to that point right there. But it played a gigantic role, and it reinforced just how important prayer really is. And also the people who were around me, I was surrounded by praying people.
Yeah.
And and when I would catch myself maybe feeling a little sorry
Hmm.
or so sick that I think we've all been there. You get so in such a shape you feel like you can't pray. It feels like the ceiling's brass.
Yeah.
And there was people that was praying that I know that helped get me over the next stage. There was a local church, their youth group would literally come to my house and stand every week and stand around my bed and sing to me and pray for me.
Wow.
And that was the shot in the arm I needed. It was
Yeah.
through those prayers. And that's the most important thing that we have as Christians. So, well, I can't preach, or I can't sing, or I can't do this, or I can't be. Yeah, but you can pray.
Yeah.
You can
Absolutely.
always pray.
That reminds me, and I love this. the place that I forget where. I'm not good at remembering like the book and chapter, but the guy who had the friends that they took off the roof and put him down through.
Mhm.
And it seems like that you're surrounded by people like that,
Yeah.
that they came to your house. Listen, that means so much. I had people who would message me with the best of intentions, friends from high school, friends, that I have now, and say, can I pay your rent? Can I buy you groceries? Can I, do this? And I'm like, no, I appreciate that, but just pray for me. That's what I needed the most. I just wanted somebody to touch God. I knew I was touching God, but please just touch God for me. Like all the other
Yeah.
stuff, it'll take care of itself. But prayer is to have prayer warriors around you, to have that circle, that's priceless,
Oh,
so.
yeah. It's unreal.
Yeah, so let's I think I got ahead of myself a little bit. Let's jump back to, so you were told you had 6 months to live. So what happened? That was 14 years ago. You're still here. Tell us what
Yeah.
did you come to 6 months and then the doctor said, I don't know why you're still here?
Well, uh, I was at Vanderbilt in ICU, in critical care unit for a long time, and they came in and they was pretty much going to put me in hospice, and my wife insisted that I get to go home, and I wanted to go home. I didn't want to die in Vanderbilt. I didn't want to die in the hospital, and I sure didn't want to die in some home. So they loaded me up on an ambulance. I remember the doctor came in. He said, "We've done everything we can do, and there's nothing else. So we're going to send you home to be comfortable." And that's code for,
Yeah.
you know, that's pretty much all, it. So I came home, 4 hour ambulance ride, strapped to a board, and I couldn't move. And that almost killed me.
Yeah.
And I come here, and instead of getting worse within 6, 7 weeks, my color's a little better.
Wow.
Well, they load me up and they take me back. And then the diagnosis, as we approached the 6 months, the diagnosis would change in a positive way, but just little increments. It'd be, well, you may last a year. Or it was 18 months, but you'll never walk again. And within a year, I'm walking. And then it was 2 years. Then nobody ever lives 5 years. And then in 6 years, it was like, well, and I would go in and I would tell the doctor, man, I've been healed. And all he would say was, I said, God's got this, man. He's healing me. And he wouldn't say, I'd say, I'm cancer free. And he'd say, that's a good attitude to have. And after 10 years of telling him that, he finally come in and he said, man, just go home. You're fine. And it was it was crazy. It didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual thing. And I know, looking back now, it was things that God did to where he used that. He didn't give me cancer, but he took that diagnosis and he showed what faith will do.
Yeah.
Because it was all because of believing and trusting and just saying, here, Lord, I'm just giving it to you and you take care of it. And if you want me home, I'm ready. And if not, then just give me strength.
Yeah, I love that. Listen, like I'm on the verge of tears right now because it's just like, doctors, they only know what they know. I mean, they
Yeah.
know, and a lot of, I'm not going to say every doctor because I've had some doctors along my journey who were Christians and who actually prayed for me, like before surgery. One doctor, he prayed for me, and I appreciate that. But for the most part, doctors know science, and they're like, well, yeah, you're still here, but don't look for it to get better. And
Yeah.
then, so I'm so glad that and you never know who or which doctor that you're watching you and you saying, I'm healed and God's got this, that probably planted a seed for them. And you don't know when that seed will, God watered. The Bible tells us that, we plant a seed, God waters it, and, or what, somebody comes along, waters it, and God brings the harvest. So yeah, I love that though. Because mine was the same way, because I was like, I knew in June I was healed. I knew I was. I told my story on the show a few weeks ago. I knew I was healed, but everybody at church was like, well, keep going to chemo. And I was like, but I'm healed. I don't have to. but I did, and I saw where God would use me to talk to the nurses and the
Yeah.
other patients there. You sit in that semicircle getting your chemo, and everybody else is just sitting there too. And then, I love God so much, I just talk about God all the time. And
Yeah.
so, God, not that I purposely said, "Hey, let me tell you," but he just came up in my conversation. And so I'm like, there was a reason that I had to continue to go to treatment. There was a reason that so yeah, I love that you said that. I mean, I can, like I said, I can totally relate. That's
Mhm.
just so beautiful. Testimonies are just so beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's true.
yeah,
God, I think about it, all that. I look back at all that, and we literally there was a feeling that I had, and it was just like after several months, I knew God wasn't done yet,
yeah,
and I knew my wife felt the same way, and they were still,
yeah,
just get your affairs in order,
yeah,
and poor pitiful, and you're getting all that, and we
mhm,
literally laughed our way through the first 8 months of this. We would find stuff funny to laugh at,
yeah,
and I would get her tickled just saying crazy funny stuff.
yeah.
And I know people thought that I was probably the biggest nut ever lived, and he's in denial. But what it wasn't that. Is I just knew God was working.
Yeah,
I couldn't explain it,
yeah.
but I just knew He was.
Yeah, it's amazing to have that assurance, the blessed assurance. Is
Yeah.
all I can think. That assurance, it's an amazing thing, and it's such a gift from God. Because I think about so many people who, you know, don't know God, and they probably got a diagnosis and you're terminal, and can you imagine how scared they are? Like, can you imagine that
Oh
would
yeah.
be so sad? So
Yeah.
yeah. So I want to talk about something that you've been extremely open about on your website. You tell the story. And so that is, during your cancer treatment, you became addicted to opioids.
Yes.
And, I was going to say, we don't have to talk about it, but you're very open. You even,
Oh,
I watched a video. So what led you down that path, what led you down that path?
the surgeries that I had was a sarcoma actually attacks the muscle and tissue. So there was a lot of me they cut off
Mhm.
and removed, and there was a lot of nerve damage and a lot of repair work.
Mhm.
And the first 6 months, they never even completely put me back together because I wasn't even going to be worth it. I had to go through
Yeah.
3 constructive surgeries after they seen that I was even going to live past a year.
Yeah.
So I was in so much pain that it was just it's undescribable. And the answer was, here, take a pill. And they sent me to a doctor, and I was doing as much morphine as they could give me without it stopping my heart.
Mhm.
And I had found out that if I told them I was still hurting, that they would give me oxys to chase between the morphine. And I knew that in my mind, I had convinced myself, well, I'm not a drug addict because
Mhm.
I'm hurting and I'm sick and I need this.
Yeah.
So I would tell myself that. So when I would go back to the pain doctor, I would say, "Yeah, I'm still hurting," and they would up it. And I'd gotten to where I couldn't go to bed without it. I couldn't get up without it. I couldn't function at all. My
Mhm.
whole life revolved around those pills. Before I knew it, I was an addict. And I was busy convincing myself, man, I'm fine because this is not no pill mill. This is a
Right.
legitimate doctor
Yeah.
that, they're sending me to. And it's a trap. It really is,
It really is.
And it definitely changed my perspective about a lot of things, especially drug addiction.
Yeah, like we see all the stuff, like for years. Listen, I used to work for an attorney back in 2010, and without giving away too much, one of his clients actually went to prison for running a pill mill in the town that I lived in. And just she would be gone for months, and her secretaries would just hand out the green pads with, they would just
Oh, yeah.
sign her name and hand them out. And so that's what, so it's not the fault of the patient. It really isn't, because we trust doctors. If a doctor says, like right now, I take seizure medicine, I have to take stomach medicine. If a doctor says, here, Chrissy, you have to have this, take it. I'm going to trust them. They're authority. They went to school for this. They
Yes.
know, they're supposed to know what they're doing. And then our bodies and our brains get hooked on that,
Hmm.
because to go from having extreme pain to having no pain or very
Hmm.
little pain, that's a great feeling, like
Oh,
nobody
yeah.
wants to be in pain. So it wasn't your fault, your brain got hooked on that.
And I don't blame anybody, because I'm still they're still saying you're not going to live very much longer,
Right.
and
Yeah.
they're just trying to make life as peaceful for me as they possibly can.
Yeah.
So I don't blame anybody I'm just saying that I can see how
Hmm.
it's easy to get
Yeah. Oh yeah.
down that dark path with the best intentions in the world,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah.
And I did. That's where I went.
Yeah. So we can see that you're doing much better now. Like I said, it's been 14 years since you were diagnosed.
Yeah.
What was the turning point that made you cry out to God for deliverance from those pills? I mean, what happened? Like, when did you finally go, wait a minute, this is an issue. This is more than just, taking away my pain. This is an issue. I've got to be delivered.
My wife was trying her best to warn me. And and I'm not bragging, but I am very hard headed, I guess sometimes. And I'm not the guy to say no to. I was never that guy. So she was saying, and I'm like, I'm fine, don't worry about me. We went to a parents, this is what woke me up. We went to a parents teacher conference that for my son at the school. And I insisted on going with her. And I don't even remember going.
Wow.
But I remember leaving, and she was crying. And she said, I am never going with you anywhere again. She said, you sat in the room with slobber running out of the corner of your mouth and your eyes half closed. I don't even remember anything about it, but I remember coming home, and I prayed, and the prayer was more of an apology than anything, just begging God to help me and promising and tell him how sorry I was, because here he had give me my life back, and this is how I'm paying him, by staying completely blown away. And I'm no use to God. I'm no use to my family. I'm not a good husband. I'm not a good father. One of the things I prayed for was Luke was 12 when I got sick. Is Lord, let me live long enough to see him, to help raise him.
Yeah.
He needs a dad right now. And then here I am. I don't even
Yeah.
know who I am, much less who he is. That was my wake up call.
Yeah. Wow.
That was
But
it.
Greg, God is so merciful that He gives us that measure of grace in the middle
Yeah.
of our mess. I mean, even after I was healed from cancer, there's been things that I'm like, gosh, I really shouldn't have said that. I really shouldn't have done that. Like sometimes I complain a lot. And I'm like, God, forgive me for complaining, because look
Mm.
at how good you've been to me. But, He does realize that we're humans
Yeah.
and we're just flesh, and there is that measure of grace, and he knew that you were just flesh, and he also understands that, like I said, because I don't know if you know this or not, but before I started doing this, I was a alcohol and drug abuse counselor and a mental health therapist, and so I dealt with this every day. That
Yeah.
was I went to college for that. That's my calling. And so people would come in feeling horrible about themselves. And I would say, this is not your fault. There's a much bigger picture, much bigger issue. Because if I have a backache and somebody says, take this pill and it's going to get rid of it, chances are I might take that pill. And then, like I said, the big pharma and all that, which that's a whole nother show we won't go into,
Mm.
but they know what they are doing. They're keeping us sick. They're keeping people sick. So, but I'm just so glad that, you were able to realize, that you come to that self-realization, and that you did cry out to God for deliverance. But you know having worked with people who are addicted, we look at people, society looks at people who are who have those issues, and they call them junkies, and they look
Mhm.
down on them. Did you feel like that anybody looked down on you during your addiction, or did anybody know?
You know, except for the people who was real close to me at the time, and I wasn't around as much. I was still in the healing process, so it's not like I was out like I had been.
Mhm.
So I really had a lot of people fooled,
Wow. Yeah.
and the ones who were close to me weren't fooled at all.
Yeah.
And but I really did. I had a lot of people fooled, and look back at that now, and just how tricky the enemy is, and how he will take and use our minds
Hmm.
to do that.
Yeah.
And I I really there was a lot of people after I came clean, and then told there was a lot of people like, wow, man, I had no idea. I never would have dreamed that of you,
Mhm.
and you know, but
Yeah, that just goes to show it can happen to any of us. It can happen
yeah,
to any of us. Anything. We are all, the Bible says we're all men of like manner. We're all
yeah,
flesh. We're all, tempted of maybe not the same exact things, but we're flesh. Our flesh is tempted. And so we're all alike. And just because, you see one person struggling doesn't mean that tomorrow you won't struggle, because we all struggle in some area. So yeah,
yeah,
that's why I try to tell people, don't feel bad about yourself. Don't let your struggles define you, because it's really, we're all the same. We're all the
yeah.
same. Yeah. So I want to kind of shift gears here and talk about your music.
Okay,
Now you put all of that pain into song, which your music is
yeah.
absolutely beautiful. Listen,
Thank you.
I cry when I listen to your song. So the song Second Chances is just, it's just absolutely beautiful. And it has touched so many lives. So I want to talk about that. What
Okay.
inspired you to write that? Was it your journey?
Yeah, it was. That's part of it. The song is three verses of three different stories. The second verse is my testimony. The first verse is a testimony of a good friend of mine that I knew who had lost the use of his hands, who was a musician. And I play music with him now all the time. And that I took, and then the third verse is the thief on the cross. And they all tie together with us getting our second chance. And that's what the song was born out of, was my experience. I tell everybody, here's my testimony in 4 minutes, and that's what it was born out of. And I've always written, I've always enjoyed playing music and singing, and it's one of the easiest songs I ever wrote in my life. It wrote
Wow.
itself. It really
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. God inspired. We're going to take a break and we're going to listen to a couple of, maybe about 30 seconds of that. So we'll be right back.
Was a man of music. He loved to bend those strings. He worshipped with his fingers as the singers would sing. But when the pain had robbed him of the gift he dearly loved, he fell down on his knees, crying to the Lord above.
Wow, Greg, that is absolutely beautiful. And like I said, it just it touches me, and I know it touches so many more. You were recently nominated for a Josie Award for Social Impact Video of the Year for that
Yes.
song in the male category. Um, I mean, how did that make you feel, knowing that you like, how does that feel? I can't imagine.
Yeah, I was blown away. I really, I didn't even know I had been nominated for the song and that it was up. And a friend of mine called me, a fellow artist from Cleveland, Ohio, and he said, "Man, congratulations on your nomination." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he went on to tell me, and I was just, just thank you, God. It's all
Yeah.
you. It ain't anything I done. It's all you. But the recognition that song has got, and the doors that it's opened has been just amazing, and it's still opening doors.
Yeah.
That's what's so cool about it.
Yeah,
And
I know. When did you write that song?
I wrote the song probably 4 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
And I tried to work on it over a couple of years, and I kept going back to the original way that I done it.
Yeah.
And that's what told me that, man, God helped me write this because He got it right the first time with me. I
Yeah.
think I just moved the pen with my hand,
Yeah.
and but it's been a little while now.
Yeah.
But
That's like I said in the beginning, God's timing is perfect. Like it's
yeah,
perfect because sometimes I think that, maybe the people, like maybe the person or the people it's meant to touch now, maybe wouldn't have listened to it 4 years ago. So
yeah.
yeah, his timing is just so perfect. I just love that about God. So what message do you hope that people will take away from that song, besides second chances? I mean, what's that deeper message you hope that they'll get when they hear it?
None of us are past being rescued. That there is hope, irregardless of the situation. And there is a chance, a second chance. And God's just sitting there, He's waiting on us. And I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of second chances.
Yeah,
I really have.
absolutely.
And, the Bible tells us that He says He removes what He takes away from us as far as the east is from the west, never to remember again. So that tells me that I'll get another second chance, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's it gives me hope if it don't anybody else. But just the impact that it's had, that people come to me and give me testimonies of. I had one guy sent me a message. I don't know where he was at, don't know anything about him, but he was on the verge of suicide
Oh,
and was ready to take his life. Saw the video and completely turned his life around. And I was like,
wow.
Lord, if nothing else ever happens, if I don't do anything else, if nobody ever listens to it, if nobody ever invites me to sing again, knowing that I got to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And thank you, God, for
You know,
using me.
I tell you, Greg, it's like we never know who our ministry is going to touch. Like I'm not a preacher, a teacher, a singer. Well, I wish I could sing. I can't sing. Like I can't carry a tune in the bucket. I cannot sing at all. But I can do this. And so I'm like, Lord, let whoever needs it, if it's one person, let them watch one
Yeah.
of my shows that will give them hope, and let them know. So yeah, I totally get it. I wish I could sing that. I'd be singing everything, but I mean, it's that it is the one person. It comes down to the one, like Jesus left the 99 and went for the one,
Yeah.
and so it is about that one person that it touches deeply. So you are currently on the Nashville Spin Top 100 charts
Yeah.
alongside of artists like Zach Williams, CC Winans. I looked at that chart the other day. Man, those are some big names on there. How does that make you feel?
It's surreal feeling. To be honest with you, when I saw it, and I sent it to my wife. I wasn't home when I saw it. So I took a picture of it on my phone and I sent it to my wife and I said, look at all the names that's inside here. I said, I'm the only nobody here.
Oh,
But it's a wild feeling. And at the same time, again, it's very humbling to me because Lord, you know, I know that you behind this because it's nothing I've done. I am completely and totally independent. I don't have any label behind me. I don't have any at all. Zero.
wow.
I mean, I recorded this song and released it, and it went number one on the Christian country charts and was number four for the year. And that was me just emailing it to DJs.
Wow.
And people would go as far as, no, man, you didn't. Who's behind what you
Mhm.
did?
Yeah, I thought you were with the label.
No, no.
Wow.
I done all that. No, I didn't. He did all that
Yeah. You
because,
know,
and and that me not knowing, we just, Lord, just, I promised him. After I seen that, hey man, he's giving me a second chance
hmm
at doing what I love, and I said, Lord, if you'll open the door, I promise you I won't question it.
yeah.
I won't hesitate. I'll just walk through. And that's how I've been approaching all this. So when I get a phone call or I get an offer and they'll say, would you like to? And I'll say, tell me what time to be there.
Yeah.
And it's led to being on the Opry twice.
Wow.
And shows like this. And it's all because, Lord, just open the door, show me the door, and I'll walk through it. I won't question.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing.
And that's what I'm going to do. And while I've got breath in my body, that's what I'm going to do.
You know, I hope that people who are watching who think that they have to have a recording label or an agent or whatever, I hope they realize you don't. As long as you have God on your side, that's all you need. As long as you know, are like you stay humble and you say, God, show me the door and I'll walk through it. I mean, that's really what it's all about, you know. I mean, God can open doors that a manager or a publicist couldn't open. So
exactly. And God's placed a lot of really important people and really good people in my life who guided me and steered me and showed me some stuff, showed me some things to watch for. And I give him all the credit for that because they didn't have to do that. And it was nothing in it for them. And it's just been, you know, it's God placing people in the right place at the right time. The guy that directed the video for me is I mean, I never would have dreamed I would have ever got to work with somebody like that. And just his vision of the song came out in the video, and he made it, he told the story in a way to where it's more relatable to everybody. All of a sudden, it wasn't as personal. It's everybody could have been that person in that video. And,
you know, being in this on this side of the business or whatever you want to call it, you know, being in the position that I'm in, when I watch things like videos or interviews or something, I do pay attention to how they're shot, how they're directed. And your testimony video on your YouTube channel where you're sitting in the church in the pew, that I was like, whoever recorded that was absolutely beautiful. And the way that it's shot, I don't know if that's in cinematic or whatever, it's beautiful. Your words were beautiful, but the way that came closer, went out, it just was an absolutely beautiful video. And I love that. And there's a lot more to it. So the person that done that, the creative person, you know, they had to be led of the Lord too, to know how to do that, because man, it was touching.
The same guy that directed Second Chances did that video.
Wow.
Cody McCarver. He runs Studio Dunlap in Dunlap, Tennessee. And he's a Christian country artist himself, but he just, when we done that, I was so blown away on, like you said, how beautiful the set, you know, or everything was. Yeah. But he was just like, man, just be honest, just be real and be honest, and we want to capture that. And I hope I did, you know, because that's what I was wanting to be, was just
absolutely
real and honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, you know, when you watch it, and I'm going to put a link to have, you know, my editor put a link to it at the end. It's just amazing. And like I said, it is so beautiful. So you've got a new album coming up in 2026. Is that right?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have it first of the year, be done with everything. And I'll have a new video out probably by then. And it's going to be real special to me. I have a brother-in-law who has been living with us for about 20 years, who's autistic, and he's nonverbal, an unreal artist. Just can't talk to you, but he can paint and draw. It'll just blow your mind. I wrote a song about him. So this video is going to be about him. And I'm working with, in talks with Autism Society of East Tennessee, hoping that I can do something to kind of help them at awareness with that too. Wow. So I'm real proud of that. I really am, and I think it's gonna bless a lot of people. When I do the song, people will come up and go, "Wow, you just described my nephew or my son or my daughter. Or we got a neighbor," and there's so many people that is touched by that, you know, in their lives, and more than I even realized. But I'm excited about getting that video done, and that song will be on the album.
Wow. I look
So,
forward to that. Autism is so prevalent in society today. I mean, it's like, 30 years ago we barely heard about it, but now
oh
it's
yeah,
it's very much, in the forefront. A lot of people are autistic, and so I think that bringing awareness to, like, the fact that you're bringing awareness to such an important
yeah.
cause is fantastic. It's really great. So I look forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So before I let you go and ask a couple more things, if you, and I always ask everybody this, whether they're an actor, a writer, or whoever, if you had one dream venue you could play at, or one dream collaboration, where would it be and who would it be with?
I would love to get to play the Opry again. This time, my brother, who I have sung with for years and years and years, and he does the background singing for me when I go do shows and go do churches, and he goes with me a lot. I would like to share the stage on the Opry with him
Yeah.
by my side one time, because when
Yeah.
I've got to play it, I've had to do it alone,
Yeah.
which was a dream come true.
Yeah.
But getting to do that would be so cool.
Wow. That's
And
great. That's great.
I know Daddy would be smiling. So
Yeah.
Daddy
Well,
would
you know
be
what? Let's
smiling.
pray that'll happen. Let's pray that let's speak life into that.
Yes.
The power of life and death are in the tongue. We can speak life into that dream, and God can bring it to pass. He really can, because
Yeah.
everything is possible with him. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll,
And
I'll
I
be
guess where my heart is right now is, and I'm doing things to try to get this started, but I really would love to do some prison ministry, and I would
mm,
love to go in and do the biggest, roughest prison the state of Tennessee's got, and I would love to go in there and do a concert for them.
wow.
That would be more important than playing the Opry.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that is a ministry. that,
Yeah.
that's a ministry. If you feel called to that, that's God, because I don't feel called to go to prison. you know. But so are you available for bookings to give your test? Like, if somebody sees the show and says, I think I want him to come to my church, or I want him to come to this function to give his testimony, are you available for
Yes,
that?
and I'm booking for 2026 now,
Wow.
so I'm
Yeah.
getting trying to get that filled up as much as I can. So
Okay.
I'm absolutely available.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And
I will give your I have somebody in mind that I will give your information to, and we'll put it on the screen too. We can put
okay,
your website on the screen before the
yes,
show is
thank
over.
you.
So um what would you say to somebody who's listening right now, who might be battling cancer or addiction, or somebody that feels hopeless? Speaking of second chances, like, what would you say to them? Somebody who just feels like, man, I don't know if this is going to work out. What did you have to say to them?
Don't give up. Surround yourself with people who have faith, who will encourage you, and will speak positive things and not negative things. We're not helping when we go, oh, bless your heart, and
Mm-hmm.
somebody that just
Yeah.
find that, and that's all well meaning and good,
Mm-hmm.
and I thank God for those people too. But just don't give up.
Yeah.
He ain't done yet.
Yeah.
I promise you, he ain't done yet.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I want to ask you that one last question. And I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna let you answer. What does giving God your all look like today, as opposed to what it looked like, 15 years ago? How have you changed? How much more do you give God now?
It goes back to where we talked about at the front, where I thought I had to fix everything.
Hmm.
How my faith and my life has changed to where I really get it now, of what complete surrender and trust in the Lord is. And that's what it's done.
Yeah.
It's strengthened me. I thought, man, I thought I was doing all the right things, and I'm going to church, and I'm doing all this and all that. I didn't know what real faith was until
Yes.
that's all I had.
Yeah. I love
But
that.
He's
I
there.
mean, it takes that complete surrender, and we
Yeah,
all come to a point in our lives, God brings us all to a point in our lives where we do completely just have to surrender to him. I mean, not everybody does, unfortunately, because there's going to be people who don't, and people who, don't make it
Yeah,
to heaven, and that's sad. But if you're really called of God and you want to live for him, he will allow you to have that turning point, that place to where he says, look, you can't do this on your own. You have to have me. So
absolutely.
yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. So, listen, I want to thank you so much for allowing me to, and my audience to, just hear your testimony. And iron sharpens iron, and the things that you've said have touched me this evening. And every time I talk to a guest like you who has a beautiful testimony, it builds me up too. It builds my faith, and I'll take this on with me. It just doesn't just end here this evening. I'll remember the words, and I just want to thank you for that. Thank you for giving us a glimpse into your journey and what God has done in your life.
Thank you, Christy, for having me on. I appreciate it so much. Our testimony is all we have.
Yeah,
That means more than anything. It
yeah,
really does. And thank you for
absolutely.
allowing me to share it with your audience.
Oh
I
gosh.
appreciate it so much.
Yeah, it's been my honor. It really has. So I appreciate it. So thank you so much for joining me today. I know Greg's story has inspired you just as much as it has me. And Greg's music is available everywhere you want to hear music. If you want to go on YouTube or Spotify, iTunes, you can visit his website, which is on the screen right now. It's at the bottom of the screen. And you can get more information on how to follow Greg. And I really recommend that you follow him on all platforms, because his life and what God has done in his life has been such an inspiration, and it will inspire you to continue to believe and trust in God. So join me again next week for another great episode, and remember that you can do all things through Christ.